Hello and welcome back to Diary of a Dropout with me, Naomi Balderson. I'm not going to lie to you, I'm having one of those days where everything is going wrong. You know, when you just drop things, people cut you off in traffic and you're just like, can I just go to sleep and start it again? Like, can we just have a rerun? Today, I am going to be doing a little bit more of a practical episode. I'm going to be chatting to you today about how to journal because I often speak on this podcast about self-awareness practices, journaling, meditation, and I've had a few people be like to me, you know what, I just don't know how to journal, which is completely fair enough. Like, I feel like it can be so intimidating to sit down with a blank piece of paper in front of you and be like, okay, I'm just gonna journal. Like, I'll just journal. Like, everyone says that that's a good thing to do for your mental well-being, but I'm just going to talk to you about why I think that journaling can be so effective, how to journal. I'm also going to read you a few of my journal entries. These are 6 of my journals, and that's not even half of them. If you can't tell, I am a prolific writer. I always have been. I think I always will be. Ever since I was a child, I always said that I wanted to be an author. I've always written stories. I've always just expressed myself very eloquently through words. It's just the way my brain works and I love it so much. But it's only really been in the past 3 years, I'd say, that I have consolidated this habit into my life daily. Let me show you how to journal. The first thing that I would say is to buy a journal that sparks joy. This is my recent one. I saw it in the Netherlands and I was looking for a new journal and I was like, yeah, that's beautiful. It's a little sunflower. I have little sunflower moments, which are just moments that make me feel like, you know, when sunflowers turn to face the sun, sometimes I just feel like a sunflower when I'm in the sun, and my sort of ethos of life is to go towards things that make you feel like you're a sunflower. Sounds so stupid, but it works. I think it's really important to buy one that just sparks joy and you're excited to write in. The pages feel good to you. I also really like the fact that this one has gold, it's kind of shiny on the outside. I don't know, I just think it's really pretty. I am personally always a lined girly. I know some people like a blank journal that you can sort of draw and be a bit more free with your writing. I have had some journals that are like that in the past, that I sometimes will have those, you know, those A3 sketchbooks and stuff, and I'll just sometimes you can really just scribble and draw and go crazy, but I like to have a separate sort of art book for that, and my writing is just quite neat and uniformed. I used to feel like this, and a lot of people have expressed to me that I'm only able to journal when I'm really angry or really sad or just really emotionally activated, and I completely empathize with that, and I was the same for many years. I produce my best work, I produce my best art, I produce my best poetry, sometimes even my best podcast episodes and content from a place of pain and emotional activation, and that's not by accident, but that is because when you're in those states, there's just a lot of energy that's activated through those big emotions. Your brain is just trying to process it, and so if you find it very easy to journal when you're angry or sad, then you will be able to journal every single day and implement it into a habit. It's just figuring out the best way to do that for yourself. I think if you do just journal when you're angry or sad or fearful or anxious or whatever, that's not a bad thing, but it does just mean that you end up with only written pages of your life when you're not in the best space. So then to look back on, it's oh, it's just not the best, you know. I think it's really important that we process the positive things in our life, the gratitude, the goodness, in order to accept that. People bang on and on and on about processing trauma, processing negative emotions and experiences, heartbreak, breakups, grief, everything, but we also need to process and move through positive states in order to be able to accept goodness into our lives, in order to be yeah, I deserve that. Today was a really good day. This person is really good to me. I am so in love. I'm so happy. I feel so successful. It's important that we integrate those into our lives and into our processing and into our healing. I've come to the conclusion that if you listen to this podcast, you want to improve your life and you're on the healing sort of journey. But the reason that we do this healing is not so that you can deal with the pain. It's so that you can handle the joy. It's so that you can feel more joy and more bliss, and that's the point of all of this, isn't it? Well, personally, I think so. More fun, more play, more laughter, more joy. That's personally why I'm doing it. A lot of people might be like, oh, I just don't like writing, it just reminds me of school, it feels icky, or maybe I find it really hard to actually put pen to paper. I'd prefer to type, I'd prefer to voice note, or to do like video diaries. And like I do some of those things as well. Sometimes when I'm on a walk and I have like a thought come to me, I'll just voice memo it. I also sometimes make video diaries, which is actually a really nice thing to do on Snapchat. It's one of the only reasons I like use the app still. It's like, oh, you're 20, like fucking delete the app. I just can't. I just feel so attached to all my memories on it, because I will like film myself speaking on Snapchat and then save it, and then it comes back on your flashbacks like 1 year ago today, and I'm like, that's where I was at a year ago today. But for me personally, there is something that's very unique about actually putting pen to paper. For me, I feel like my ideas flow a lot better, and it feels like it genuinely like comes from my heart. It also is because writing is slower than our capacity to think, which really forces us to be present in the moment with our thoughts, with our feelings. I'll get onto the science a little bit later in the episode because it is really interesting. Look at me being a fucking science girl. Who would have thought? My next point is something I think a lot of people struggle with, and I definitely did when I very first started, was you're like, who is this for? Like, who's gonna read this? Like, is anyone gonna read it? Am I even gonna read it? And you almost start journaling performatively. You're like, okay, well, if someone were to read it, what would I want them to think about me? It's like this idea of like sort of writing a memoir or being like, maybe these will be found by someone in the future one day. And I completely understand that, but like realistically, most of us are not going to publish our journals. We do so much in our daily lives, I think, for other people to witness, for other people just in general. I think a lot of us are in a like servitude mindset a lot of the time to other people. Let this be the one thing that is just for you. You know, I do a lot of output, like I'm podcasting, creating content. My journaling is often the one thing. I mean, I am going to share them today, and sometimes I will post a picture if I really like my page, because, you know I'm saying like most of us aren't going to publish our journals, but I do believe that some of my entries definitely could and should be published. It's you versus you. You're the only one you're doing this for. You're doing it for your present, your past, and your future self. You're processing your past. You're sitting with your present feelings and emotions and thoughts in this moment, and you're doing it for your future self to look back on. I'll sort of dip into how I personally journal, what I do in my daily practice, and then I'll go through a few different types of journaling, a few different prompts. I think this is going to be a really interesting and also a very practical and tangible episode. How I set out my journal pages every day is I write the date. If you're like, how did I feel on the 23rd of July? You can just go back and be like, that's how I felt. And then I just write whatever's on my heart. And I know that sounds so annoying because it's like, well, Naomi, what if I don't know what's on my heart? It genuinely could be anything from like someone's pissing me off, or even just reflecting on what I did that day and how I felt about it, how I felt it went. Or maybe it's me thinking about my future, or maybe it's I'm journaling at the start of the day and I want to set my intentions, or maybe it's an insight that I've had in meditation or yoga, or I've read a book or a podcast or a piece of media that's really stuck with me. I mean, personally, I feel like there's always something going on. There's always something percolating in my brain. I don't find it that difficult to have things to write about. But if I do at any point feel like, fuck, like I'm not really sure what to write, I will just list things that I'm grateful for. I'll just write gratitude and be like, I am grateful for the sun. I am grateful that I got to wake up today. Before I go on to gratitude journaling and what that can do, the way that I've like been able to fill up journals is by forcing myself to fill up just a page, just literally a page. Obviously that depends on how big the journal is. Say like A5, like I will go write the date and then force myself to write a page. If I run out of things to write about, I write gratitude, and that's it. Just one page every day. If I've got more, I'll go for longer, but usually I try and fit it in one page as well, because you know, you don't want to be sat there for hours, and you can do that very easily in under 10 minutes. It doesn't take a lot of time at all. So what is gratitude journaling? Clues in the name. It's writing about things. Writing about things that you feel grateful for, and just really consciously bringing the feeling, not just listing things that you're grateful for, but like genuinely consciously bringing the feeling of gratitude into your body every day. And the science behind this is that feelings of gratitude can regulate cortisol production in your brain and reduce anxiety and stress. It triggers the neurotransmitters and hormones which are associated with happiness, including dopamine and serotonin. The reason that I think this works is because you're then looking for more things to add to your gratitude list every day, right? If you start your day, I even do it sometimes without writing it down. I like open my eyes and I'm like, right, Naomi, 10 things you're grateful for. And I just immediately, the first thing I do is start off my day with gratitude, because then you're going through your day with this like sort of cognitive bias. You know, it goes back to like law of attraction, law of assumption. You're just looking for goodness and looking for things to go right in your day and looking for reasons to be grateful. There is always something to be grateful for. Literally, no matter what situation you are in, just grateful to be alive. Grateful for my health, grateful that I have a warm bed, grateful that I have yummy food in my fridge and in my stomach. I'm grateful, you know, that you can just go on and on and on, and then it feels like you're just this endless well of gratitude and love of your own life. That is such a beautiful base to create from, to go to work from, to show up for the people in your life with this just immense gratitude for the human experience. And I know that sometimes it feels really hard to find things to be grateful for. When you're in the thick of it, it's really hard. But I have forced myself to do this on some of my darkest days, and it's brought a little glimmer of like, no, there is always something to be grateful for. Next, I will go on to talk about how, just sort of why I really feel like journaling works for me, especially, is that I have an incredibly busy mind, if you couldn't tell. One of my friends was saying, like, I just love the range of your podcast episodes. Like, one second, you know, it feels like a really girly debrief, and the next is like the most informative, like scientific thing ever. There's a lot going on up here. Not saying I'm like really clever or whatever, like probably the opposite, because like there's like overdrive, and I just have a very busy mind that loops on different topics which genuinely range from what am I meal prepping this week, to the quantum theory of consciousness, to someone that hurt me like literally a decade ago. Like, this is just all ruminating sort of constantly, and always problem solving on different topics, different situations. Journaling is literally getting it out of my head and onto a page. It just feels like it orders my thoughts. It feels like sometimes they feel like really scary and big, and like sometimes fear as well can feel like really big in your head. It's sort of this idea of like naming it to tame it. I love that phrase. It's like, once you recognize it, once you're aware of it, and once you put it out on a page, it's like, oh, it's actually not that bad. Because if I can, getting it out of the emotional side of your brain and into the logical side of the brain. And the scientific reason behind this is because when we are journaling, the amygdala, which is the part of our brain that's responsible for our emotional regulation and also our fight or flight or freeze responses when we're faced with a threat, it just slows it down. It doesn't feel as scary. It doesn't feel as daunting. I feel like once you put it out onto paper, it's like, oh, okay, I can do that. It's even when you're planning something. I mean, personally for me, I've been realizing like I would love to be one of those people who doesn't need to write a to-do list, who doesn't need to journal, who can just like sort of flow through life with this beautiful ease. But like, if I do that, like if I don't have a to-do list, if I don't have a clear plan, or like if I just can't get it out onto paper, like my brain just does not know what to do. I don't know if that's the ADHD, but like I have become aware that like I need that meticulous structure and those boundaries and time planning that is like very regimented to like get anything done. And that's just my sort of coping mechanism. So that's sort of like how I personally journal. But then there's like a few different exercises that I want to share with you. And one really important reflective part of journaling is shadow work. So when I sort of had my... I cringe myself up sometimes. When I had my sort of spiritual awakening, it was in 2020, it was in lockdown, and a lot of my teaching was genuinely from TikTok and YouTube. That's what I had resources to do at the time. I started reading books about it after, like, don't worry, but like initially it was just like a lot of content. It just sort of started coming up, and like I started seeing synchronicities and just like a lot of things. Then really honed in on my like yoga and meditation at that time. I came across this thing called shadow work, and I didn't understand the psychology behind it the way that I do now, but I still did it. And there's certain prompts that made me look very, very inward, and I just started journaling about them and just like really facing some different parts of myself. And I've continued that on over the past couple of years, and it's been really transformative for my self-awareness and just for me trying to be a better person in this world and show up better for the people that I love by being more aware. So shadow work is a type of psychotherapy that focuses on the parts of your psyche. Jung is a psychologist, and he sort of coined the term like shadow work or the shadow self, and it's basically this idea that there's a part of ourselves that people often keep hidden, and it's unconscious. You keep it hidden to others and yourself, and this is things like trauma and resentment, and it's just looking at the parts of yourself that you don't want to look at, that you're like, stay away. It requires an extreme level of, like I said, self-awareness, and just being able to look at your behaviors and patterns from a slightly removed point of view and not identifying with them as such. I'm gonna give you some journal prompts. This was one that I did the other day, actually, that was really, really confronting. If I were to attend a dinner party, what parts of myself would I like to leave at home? What parts of myself would I be embarrassed to bring with me? And then there's like further additional prompts, like what I don't like about this part of me, how this part of me hurts myself, how this part of me hurts others, how this part of me helps me, how this part of me helps others, why I need this part of me, why I love this part of me. And I think it's really important to mention that this isn't just about criticizing yourself. It's not about sitting there and being like, right, what's shit about myself? It's like recognizing the behaviors that you are not conscious of. So like, should I give an example? Is that like way too intimate for a podcast? When I did this, I said that the part of myself that I would like to leave at home is my depression. And yeah, I just then journaled about that, about why I don't like it, and how it hurts myself, how it hurts others, but what I love about it and what I can accept about it, and how does this part of me help me. And it's just a really beautiful way of integrating the different parts of yourself. Yeah, like I said, it's not about criticizing yourself, it's about actually loving and accepting all of those dark parts, even if they might seem really undesirable and like things that you want to get rid of. You know, you can't just kill off parts of yourself. That's not how it works. And that's very like spiritual bypassing of like trying to pretend that you're all love and light and that there's no dark parts of you, there's nothing that you maybe are not a fan of. Like that's just like very much lacking authenticity and lacking depth, really. I think it's absolutely critical to be aware of the shadow of yourself, of things that you might not have been conscious for. And like this is really, really hard and deep inner work because it's unconscious, because you're making the unconscious conscious. I'll give you a few more prompts to be working with. These are some questions from James Hollis. I'm absolutely not taking credit for them. If you're in a close relationship, what annoys you about your partner? Forget your rationalizations for a while. That person was chosen for a good reason. He or she embodies aspects of your shadow. And I really like this idea. I'm going off on a little tangent here, but I really like this idea of like the things that trigger us in other people, like the things that annoy you about other people, that is a direct mirror, a direct reflection of where you need to do a little bit more work and giving a little bit more compassion. I'm angry at that because I don't like the part of myself that might cut someone off, that might not be mindful. Where do you repeatedly undermine yourself, shoot yourself in the foot, cause yourself familiar griefs? Where do you flee from your best, riskiest self? I love that question. I really love that. Where are you stuck in your life, blocked in your development? What fears block your growth? Where do mum and dad still govern your life, either through repetition, overcompensation, or your special treatment plan? Where do you refuse to grow up, wait for clarity of vision, hope for solutions to your life, expect rescue from someone, somewhere, or wait for someone to make sense of it all for you? But they're just sort of to get you going and to get you moving and to get you journaling. And it's honestly really interesting. I could sit here for hours and journal about that, because I just think it's so I think it's so interesting. I think exploring yourself and your patterns of behavior is like some of the most interesting work that you can do, because it's just like, I don't know, it's just cool to me. It's cool. Don't get too bogged down with it. It's emotional weightlifting. It's really emotional weightlifting. Like it's hard work. It's heavy. It's heavy and hard work, but I find that shit really fun. But maybe I'm a weirdo. Obviously, about like the pros of journaling is that it's such a cool record to have, of just your life and your life experience, but to be able to have snapshots of how it was to be alive in your body at this point in time. Just a little snapshot to be able to look back on is so beautiful, and also serves you in decision making. You know, we forget a lot, we filter, we process, we just filter out a lot, but being able to go back and access those exact emotions, those exact feelings of how you were feeling at that time is so powerful. It's a real privilege. Like, I feel so lucky to have these full journals of my life, because I'm actually going to read you some now. I'm going to share a couple journal entries just so you can see, and we can just reflect on my past together. They won't be like super, I've chosen quite impersonal. So this was on the 20th of November 2022. Take your vitamin D, clean your room, journal, plan your day minute by minute to stop the chance of a thought arising, meditate, get sunlight in your face, read, clean sheets, open your heart, shower, eat fruit, drink water. Why must I do these things to appear as if I'm functioning normally? It doesn't feel fair. I have to put in so much effort to be a functioning member of society. You have been given this mountain to show others it is possible to move. I'm doing so much better than I give myself credit for. I got out of my hometown that suffocated and berated me for so long, but I miss it. I miss my mum. I still feel like I'm 15 with no idea who I am. I'm learning to love the feeling of being lost and how exciting it is to reconstruct what it means to be me. I'm so proud of how deeply I feel, how erratic my emotions can be. It means I love deeply and care profoundly. I remember everything, details you don't even remember saying. I want to let go of all my resentment and distrust of people. I feel like my heart is opening up again. This time I only invite love in. That was a very positive journal entry of my time at uni. I remember writing that, and I remember how I was feeling, and like, yeah, oh, I could read so many of these. Sometimes I do just scribble. Live in the moment, always, so it keeps coming. Focus on feeling good. Revisiting my subconscious, let it be, connected to everything, attached to nothing. I go on to one that I wrote. I journaled extensively at my yoga teacher training, because I was like, I really need to remember all of the lessons I'm learning. So day 15, yoga teacher training, 23rd of October 2023. Things begin, change and end. You can always begin again. I've reached a real turning point. I've had many days here where I haven't wanted to practice, but I have, and I want to prioritize my own practice, journaling, meditating, being at one with myself before anyone else. I had a burger last night and a very insightful chat with. I don't know what fed me more. Maybe it is going to be okay, and maybe I do have time. We're all on our own journey. I just need to have an abundance plan. I feel very inspired and drawn to teach, to create peace, harmony, and bliss in others' minds. In a world that is so hectic, this is the greatest gift we can give to one another. I'm excited to record podcast episodes again. Love surrounds me. Life is truly so beautiful. We're the universe experiencing itself over and over again. Thank you, Gaia, Mother Nature, Father Sky, all of my teachers, all of my blessings, all of my experiences to teach, to help others. I'm planning on hiking a mountain tomorrow and going ecstatic dancing. If you had told 15-year-old me this is how I spend my days and that I don't want to die, I think she would laugh in my face. Life is good. Gratitude. Nothing is forever. We need to treasure what we have when we have it. Love, humanity, peace, compassion. All of the love that surrounds me, I feel echoing from across the globe. God, slay. I'll do a different one from Bali though. Took a turn. I have dengue fever, which makes sense because I've been so ill for so long, but yesterday I couldn't hold water down. Went to the doctors, got an IV drip and loads of meds. The main thing I've noticed is how much we take our health for granted. I really am tempted to come home, but I don't want to give up. Jersey was pretty much hit by a hurricane yesterday. I feel so sad for my little island. So much destruction. I have decision fatigue. I just want someone to tell me what to do. I'm going to plan the rest of my trip. I'm just so tired and miss mum, my bed, my shower, home comforts. I've also lost a lot of weight and I feel weak and vulnerable. I want to be taken care of. There's a German girl on the phone in my hostel and she's being excessively loud. I need to buy sun cream and soap. This hostel feels kind of dirty and damp. I just really, really want to feel well again. I feel guilty for resting, but I still feel so unwell. Okay, that's enough of that. Just a journal page that I shared on Instagram already, but this was on the 31st of July 2024. Gaia will hold you. It takes so much more effort to be soft, to go through something that should make you bitter and mean. The easy option is to harden your exterior. How beautiful that you choose to relentlessly choose love. To return to softness, no matter what the world has given you. It is not a case of ignoring the darkness, the depths, the pain and the trauma. It is seeing it and welcoming it in for dinner, giving it a hug and loving that as well. For how can we have light without dark, height without depth? The human experience seems to be full of paradox. Today, the most important thing to do is lay on the grass, feel the earth supporting my back, watch as the clouds dance into a mandala against the blue sky, to watch the ant run across my journal, to simply bear witness to what always has been and always will be. The strongest thing to do is rest and return to the softness of Gaia. And next I will just briefly touch on how you can implement this habit. Like anything, make it non-negotiable, but change one thing at a time. You know, if you're focusing on meditating, focus on meditating. If you've got that on lock, go to journaling, like, or exercise, or like whatever it is, like habit stacking, Atomic Habits, James Clear. I've recommended that book over and over again, but truly life-changing. But yeah, make it non-negotiable, put it on your to-do list every single day, and just fucking be like, right, I'm gonna sit down and journal. Soon it will just become a unconscious habit and you'll just be like, and soon, like, this will happen to you. It will be like a few days. Sometimes this will happen to me. I'll fall out of routine or whatever, and I'll be like, oh my god, why does my brain... And I'm like, I haven't journaled in 3 days. And also, like, what sort of time should you do it? I've gone through different phases in the morning of waking up and just, you know, first thing I do, write in my journal, write about my dreams, write about my intentions for the day, which is really nice. It's a good way to start your day, and sort of coming into yourself before you go and do anything for anyone else or whatever. I've been preferring writing at night recently and just processing my day. And also, if you struggle to sleep, I really, really recommend journaling before bed, because it just gets everything out of your head and it feels like you can go to sleep then resting easy, knowing that you've got it out, and it's sort of a bit more ordered, and it stops the sort of rumination and the looping thoughts, I find personally. And it's also just nice to reflect on your day and process what's happened. And I feel like it's a more like accurate sometimes snapshot, or right, whereas if you write in the morning, it's more like, I don't know, maybe not. Personally, for me, I feel like if I write at the end of the day, I can be like, right, go back to it, and I'm like, that's what happened on that day, and that's how I felt about it. But yeah, I mean, I'm just doing this episode because I always feel better after a good old journal. Get it all out, express your pain, express your happiness, express all of it. It's all a wonderful, irreducible, unique expression of the cosmos, and I hope that your day goes beautifully. I just wanted to quickly say thank you so much to anyone who came to my integration circle at the weekend. It was a beautiful, beautiful space, and yeah, I'm so excited to see where this next chapter takes me. I get little chills every time I talk about it. It doesn't feel real. It doesn't feel like something I am actually doing, but I am. So yeah, thank you for all your support. Follow my business page at Miura Studio. I'm also doing some online classes as well, so if you'd like to sign up for them, please, you're more than welcome. You don't have to live in Jersey. All my international listeners, you can get a yoga class by me. All my love. Follow me on TikTok and Instagram at Diary of a Dropout Podcast. Subscribe if you're watching on YouTube, and follow and rate the show if you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Thank you so much for endlessly supporting me. Fill out the Google Forms if you've got anything specific you want me to talk about, whether that's an overarching mindset, mental health, whether that's physical health, whether that's business things, whether that's travel, whether that's a practical thing like meditation or journaling or whatever it is. If you've got anything you want to say to me, fill out the Google Forms. I love interacting with you. I love building this community of people who are leading with love instead of fear, and freedom instead of entrapment. All my love from my heart to yours. This has been Diary of a Dropout with me, Naomi Balderson.